As men, nothing matters more than showing up healthy and strong for our families. Yet many of us quietly struggle, feeling drained, foggy, not at our best, and we don't even know why. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Philip Oubre, functional medicine doctor, health expert, and relentless problem solver. Dr. Oubre is known for identifying and treating the 6 root causes of chronic illness: gut issues, biological toxins, mold toxins, heavy metals, environmental chemicals, and emotional toxins. He's personally helped me detox from heavy metals, and he's helped many other men in our community to overcome health challenges that traditional medicine often ignores. Dr. Oubre isn't just a respected doctor, he's also a devoted father and husband who understands exactly what's at stake when our health isn't right. In this episode, you'll learn practical steps, simple at-home tests, and powerful strategies to take back control of your health starting right now. Let's get into the show.
Yes.
That'll be a great segue to talk about your business and how you're helping people. And I'm excited about this part too, because I'm grateful to get to know you as a kid. I'm grateful to know you now more as a family man. And the work you're doing professionally, I'm also excited about. And I think it's very important for a man to have a mission, outside of his family. I think
Agreed.
that's really critical.
Agreed.
So let's talk about your practice. And I could come at this topic in many different ways, but one of the things I want to get to, because it's such a big subject. I mean, we can cover a lot of ground, but what I think makes more sense for me right now is I want to talk to you about what brought me specifically to you.
Yeah.
Because, and let's talk about whatever.
Deal.
But to get into this, I think the doorway I want to walk through is the chelation part, right? And so the context, and feel free, by the way, to speak about anything you know about my situation. There's no, right, like I'm an open book in this space.
Appreciate it.
But so the last 8 years, I mentioned this earlier, I'll just mention this one more time. Last 8 years, I've been dealing with this iron issue, been dealing with this high C-reactive protein number, trying to figure out what it is. I've met with lots of doctors. I've had lots of different, approaches to what could possibly be going on. And so one piece of it that was coming up kind of in my view at this point, was the possibility of heavy metal poisoning. And that's, I think, the mold and the heavy metal, these two topics, especially with Mike and Hal, were more well-versed than most of my friends. And so that's what really brought me to you. And then what we started working on together, and I know Hal's been working on this, is this chelation process that basically helps remove the heavy metals from the body.
Yep.
So I know that you do lots of things in your practice, and that's not the only thing.
Right.
But I at least wanted to provide some context as maybe what brought me to you.
Yeah.
And then I would like to talk about that for a little bit, because I actually think, now I'm not the doctor at this table, but after 8 years and reading a lot, watching a lot, talking a lot to people, I feel like this mold piece and this heavy metal piece is kind of like a thing that is not on everybody's radar.
No.
So if I had to give a gift to the Front Row Dad community, my hope in talking to you today, my gift to the world, and these men are all over, not everybody's going to be able to be your client in Austin.
And that's okay.
They're all over the world, but I know we can help a lot of people to at least have this on there now. They can be aware of it.
Agreed.
And maybe take a couple steps towards figuring it out.
Agreed. And we can give them practical things to do without ever even contacting us.
Yeah. So that's where I want to go. Choose your own adventure here. If we had to talk about mold or metals, where would you want to start the conversation? Because I want to talk about both these if we can.
Unfortunately, mold has become the dominant. I've become a mold doctor. That's what, if anyone were to know of us, that would probably what we would be known for. I don't really like that because I'm a family doctor. I'm womb to tomb. If you have a heartbeat, you're my patient. I take care of everything, no matter if it's blood pressure, diabetes, and I think a couple things I want to give people is at least to understand that so much more disease is reversible than you've ever even known. I went to a conventional medical school, and I was told that autoimmunity is something you live the rest of your life with. We have reversed so much autoimmunity. I'm not even afraid to say it. It's fully reversible It's fully reversible. But what are the causes of those things, whether it be diabetes, whether it be strokes, heart attacks, cancers, and whatnot? What most people are missing is lots of medical billboards and all the crap out there will say root causes all the time. But if you actually ask people what the root causes are, they have no earthly idea. If you pin a doctor down and say, what are the root causes of all disease? They will have no idea. I can honestly boil it down to 6 simple things. And this is my Bible that I live by. Well, my personal Bible is the Holy Bible, but my medical Bible is these 6 root causes are the cause to all human chronic disease. Now, I always like to do a timeout when I say all chronic disease, because if you get your leg bitten off by a shark, that's not a chronic disease, right? You're not going to fix your metals and your leg's going to grow back. These are chronic diseases, inflammation, iron issues, whatever it may be. Something went wrong in your body because of one of these root causes, and these root causes are raining down, causing the inflammation, causing hormone dysfunction, causing mitochondrial dysfunction, which is the energy producer of the cell, which are then causing the symptoms. So conventional doctors are looking at the symptoms and saying, oh, you have reflux, here's your drug. Or, oh, you have psoriasis, here's your drug cream. Here's your drug, here's your drug, here's your drug. And what we do is, yes, I'm a medical doctor, so I use plenty of prescriptions and things. We do that all the time. But we zoom out and say, what are your 6 root causes? And we're going to go through each one of them. We're going to test each one. We're going to treat each one. And when they're all fixed, you will be optimally well. End of story. And it works for every single patient. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore because it's 100% true, and we make that promise to all of our patients. So real quickly, the 6 causes, are you already nailed 2. Mold is crazy. We need to spend a ton of time on it if we can. Heavy metals are so easy to treat. It's just you either have them or you don't, and you got to take them out, and then you feel better. It's that simple. But the number one thing that most people miss is actually gut issues. Your microbiome is, I call it either your greatest supervillain inside you or your greatest superhero. And the reason why the microbiome is so much bigger of a deal than even mold and metals is because if you can fix your microbiome, it can fix everything else for you.
Right.
So the number one issue is gut issues because that's where your nutrition's absorbed, that's where the trash is taken out, and that's where your microbiome is. So we always fix the gut, no matter if you're a mold patient, a metals patient, a chemicals patient, whatever. It's always the gut first. But then the other 5 root causes are all toxins. The first toxin is called biological toxins. So those are organisms that live inside you or on you that make you sick. Makes sense. Yeast, candida, bacteria, whatever, they can make you sick. Number 2 is mold toxins. So if you're breathing it in, if you've lived in it, mold toxin can stay inside you for decades. We've proven that. It's research proven. Number 3 is heavy metals, lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium. And number 4 is environmental chemicals, so plastics and fertilizers, Roundup, all that crap that we collect over time. And then number 5 is actually emotional toxins. We call them emotional toxins instead of stressors because when someone we don't like to give words power over us, but when you assign a word a validity, it starts to make more sense. When you just say you're stressed, that's just an ambivalent word, like everyone's stressed. But when you think about that stressor as an emotional toxin, and I often tell people, like, if you drank a cup of gasoline every day, you'd probably be pretty sick. And should I give you a bunch of supplements to detoxify that gasoline? Or should you just stop drinking the gasoline, right? So that works in so many things, but especially stress. You can't ever not drink the stress. You will consume it. But you can offer detox strategies of emotional stress, like, oh, I take time off. I spend time with my family. Or I compartmentalize that stressor, or I don't internalize that stress, all those things. So those are basically the root causes of all human suffering. And if you reverse those, basically 100% of disease goes away. And things that people don't even believe are reversible, like dementia, fully reversible.
Wow.
So to go back to the mold thing, mold is the single greatest. I've become a mold doctor. So when I became a functional medicine doctor, I opened my practice in 2016. I did 0 mold. I had a nutritionist with me for several years. And in 2018, she says, we need to start testing for mold. And I said, no, we don't know how to treat it. Why would we test for something we don't know how to treat? Right. She says, well, I'm going to do it. And I was like, okay, I guess we're going to do it. So we test this patient, and she's positive. Great. Now what, Heather? Yeah. Now what are we going to do? So it forced us to start digging, and we had no idea what we were doing. Oh, my God, we did it so wrong for so long. But we dug and dug. We learned and learned. We practiced on our patients, and that's a practice of medicine. And we now have the greatest mold protocol that, as far as I know, ever created. No one's got a better one. Otherwise, I would buy it from them or talk to them. But the single biggest piece that people miss is that mold has no smell. Mold has no smell. So many of our patients, when they come in through the door, are living in mold and they have no earthly idea. I just had 2 patients this week. They literally had to move out of their house because it was so bad and they had no idea and never even thought of it. And they had seen multiple doctors. They have plenty of money, plenty of testing, plenty of lab testing. No one had ever even done a mold test on the home and never even done a mold test on the human. And so the number one thing is mold inspectors. So mold inspectors are great, but just get a flashlight, because mold inspectors, what most people don't know is mold inspectors aren't looking for mold. They're looking for water damage.
That's right.
Any sign of water damage means there's mold. That's it. It's not, oh, it's dry now. No. All it takes is water is the thing that hatches the seeds of mold, hatches the spores of mold. Once it hatches, it can survive on humidity. That's it. It can live forever.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but we're in Texas, and it's humid here. So lots of people are living in mold and don't know it. It's a simple test. You don't need me to buy it. It's called an ERMI, E-R-M-I,
Yep.
and you can order it from the company we commonly use is either Dust Test, I like their report the best, and Liz Biotech, LISBIOTECH.com. You just buy an ERMI. It's $300. You Swiffer swab your house, and it gives you a score. Based on that score, you can decide whether you want to hire the mold inspector or not. But the main thing I see with people doing the ERMI is they get the test back, and they're like, I don't see it. Must not be a problem. If your ERMI score is greater than 4, greater than 6, you're living in more mold than you want to. Most people believe that mold is black mold and you're going to die in it. There's a whole lot of mold in between. White pure as heaven and black mold will kill you. We call it the gray zone. There's plenty of molds that you live in the gray zone, and you might be diagnosed with things by your doctor called high blood pressure or high cholesterol, or if they're really advanced, they might be doing a CRP test like you've mentioned, and they're not looking at mold at all. But why do you have an elevated CRP? Something is wrong in the body, and you've got to find one of those 6 root causes, and if one of those 6 root causes are the problem, you fix it, and the CRP goes away, the iron issues go away, the human body restores itself. The number one thing that most people are missing is they're living in mold and didn't know it, including myself. I'm a mold doctor, and we've had 3 separate water leaks in our house that I won't waste your time on, but I got sick.
I just had a buddy. I won't say his name, but he just had, because a lot of people would know his name. They had just had mold in his house, got really, really sick, had to move out into his guest house. But that, like, I see this, and I think that because he's in the conversation, when he started getting sick and he wasn't getting better, he's like, I gotta look at this mold piece, and then he found the leak in the house and the mold exposure.
And it's
so now
usually a
being
slow leak that no one sees. The fast leak is obvious. Everyone sees that.
That's right.
It's the slow drip. Our water filter leaked, our windowsill leaked, and it was just enough. And I got a diagnosis. I didn't get a mold diagnosis. If I had gone to a regular doctor, the diagnosis I would have got was insomnia and restless legs.
Yeah.
I got severe insomnia and severe restless legs from mold? Yeah. I've never even seen that before. But mold can do everything. We call mold the great mimicker. It's great at pointing the finger at everyone else. It does all kinds of stuff, but no one with mold has the same thing. Everyone's unique. And just like that in heavy metals, Flint, Michigan was a big story not that long ago, and everyone in Flint, Michigan was exposed to too much lead. What was the number one diagnosis coming out of it? Nobody knows. No one's even talking about it. Why? Because lead doesn't cause one thing. Lead causes a root cause problem that in one person causes a hormone disruption, and now you get a cancer. And another person, it causes inflammation, so they have a heart attack. And another person, it causes mitochondrial dysfunction so bad that their brain can't work, and now they have brain fog, early dementia, and they have to retire early because lead disrupted at the top of the diagram. I've got this printed out in my office. Top of the diagram as a root cause. You don't go to the doctor and get a lead diagnosis unless someone runs the test.
Yep.
If you don't run the test, you never even see it. You can do a simple blood test. You did our fancy chelation challenge, but you can do a simple blood test for lead, mercury, and arsenic, easy lab test. And it's not a great test, but if it's positive, you have a problem. It should be 0 at all times. You're not supposed to have any lead, mercury, or arsenic in your body. The lab will tell you, oh, if it's over 10, you're abnormal. No, if it's not 0, it's abnormal. You have too much in your body. So it's so simple. Hardly any of the doctors are doing it. It's one of those things that became part of the woo-woo medicine movement, the chelation. If you look up doctors that are doing chelation, they're usually wackadoos, and I like to believe I'm not one of the wackadoos. But there's plenty of doctors out there doing heavy metal challenges, we call them, to see if people are high in metals. And it's so easy to test for. As I got into functional medicine, it was one of the things I was the most scared of, like chelation. Sounds like a very abnormal process. We're using these drugs called EDTA and DMPS. It sounds scary and all that. To this day, we've got crazy treatments that can make people feel significantly ill in the process of making them better. It's kind of the functional medicine way. The thing that makes you feel the worst is usually the thing that you need the most. It is kind of weird. And that's a hard fact for many people to understand. But chelation is literally the easiest thing we do. It's easy. We give people an IV. The worst symptom they feel is usually they feel a little drained that day. You've had it done, and you're a little drained, but otherwise totally fine. We have very few people that have any side effects to it. It's so rare. So chelation, I tell people, is one of the easiest things we do. The hardest part is the cost and time of
You're
sitting in a
basically
chair.
binding to the metal and peeing it out.
That's it.
That's it. You're
it's that
binding
simple.
to the metal and peeing it out is the process. And yeah, so I don't even know that I truly could say I experience any type of fatigue or anything.
That's
'Cause
how mild
I
it
just
is.
kind of get tired anyway towards the end of the day. So,
Especially
so
if you're forced to sit in a chair for 2 hours and do nothing,
but-
hooked up to an IV pole.
Yeah. Although your staff, by the way, world class. Like
We've
I'm
got
able to be
great
super
staff.
productive
Yeah.
in your office.
Good.
So I want to go back. So I want to talk about actually. I got 3 things on my mind right now. I want to
Better
stick
be
with
careful because I can monologue.
Yes,
so
I
you
want
gotta
to
stop
stick.
me.
I want to stick with the mold for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to go back to chelation in a little bit. So I'm going to bookmark that one. I want to stay on mold, and I want to ask you before we go back to mold though. Is parasites? Is that something that you talk about also, or is that in one of the 6 that you were just referencing?
So if you were to include parasites in that, and that those 6 root causes are big buckets, right? So a parasite would technically be a biological toxin and or a gut issue.
Yeah.
So you have a gut issue because you have parasites, and you have biological toxins because parasites make toxins. But if I can, I'm going to give you a strong opinion on parasites.
Yeah.
Parasites are not really real in America. Now, there's a lot of doctors that are going to cringe at hearing me say that. We test every single patient in our office with an advanced stool study. Every single patient that walks in our practice, except for ones that refuse, and there's not many because I'm pretty convincing, every patient for a stool study. We see parasites in less than 10% of our stool studies. And the parasites we do see in the stool studies, they're what we call microscopic parasites. They're single-celled parasites. You would never see one in a toilet. You can only see it under a microscope. And these are usually not really toxic parasites. True parasites are found in like Africa and Mexico, rural Mexico and stuff. We don't see parasites in America. So I kind of get bothered when people start talking about doing parasite cleanses and all this. And so I'm going to justify my actions in a minute because parasite cleanses do work, but they don't. So the idea behind parasites are easy for people to gravitate towards. Like parasite sounds like a bad thing. Treat them, get them out, yes. But they're truly rare in America. So what are people experiencing when they do a parasite cleanse and feel better? Some people would say a placebo. But if you actually look at it, the supplements that they're giving for parasite cleanses are actually supplements that also treat bacterial overgrowth and fungus overgrowth in the bowels and reduce the inflammation of your bowels. So I'm against the parasite cleanses because I don't like practitioners lying to people just because it's a catchy term. Oh, I got parasites, I need to treat them. That bothers me. As a scientist and as a medical doctor, I consider myself a scientist. There's not many parasites in humans. I've never seen a tapeworm. I've never seen a multicellular parasite in a patient. And I looked the other day, I've seen over 4,000 patients in my practice. So I don't think I'm wrong on this one. Not to say there aren't. I have seen them in residency in New York where we pulled a 18-inch worm out of this guy's esophagus. It was wild. It was crazy. They had never even seen one. I was lucky to be there. So they do exist, but rare. But the parasite cleanses are legitimate. They do treat bacterial overgrowth. We call it SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIFO, small intestinal fungus overgrowth. So I'm kind of against parasites because they're just not real.
So
In America.
I'm actually gonna bookmark mold. I want to bookmark mold, and I want a little disclaimer to everybody. Like what I'm about to say is gonna gross some people out. Okay. So if you have a weak stomach, turn off your podcast. If you've got small children in the car, turn off the podcast. So, all right. I would also imagine I'm trying to articulate this well because I haven't thought about how I want to say all this. But if somebody travels internationally,
it's possible.
Then if you are saying in other countries this might be a bigger issue.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility. We talked with my wife about this, about two things. One is traveling internationally, which we have done,
And specifically third world countries.
Partic-
Like you
partic-
travel to Paris, that doesn't count.
right, picking up a parasite internationally.
Yep.
And then the other one that she's concerned about is sushi, or like raw foods that could, again, those are swimming in waters all around the world and then flown in and served to us. So those two places. Okay, back to the parasite thing for a minute. I did a parasite cleanse with Cellcore.
Yeah, the most common.
Most common, right? So I did Cellcore. And when I was instructed that when I would go to the bathroom to look in my stool to see if there was anything in there. And I was like, there's no way. Like I was expecting to see these tiny little 1/4-inch worms or whatever. And in this process, like I said, guys, this is going to get gross. There was what could only be to me a long worm in this stool.
Had you done a stool study before this?
Yes. And it did say the GI map or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty extent. It was like a $500 stool test, right?
One of the better ones.
And yes, it had said that there were some parasites.
You don't remember which one? Though?
No, I don't remember. But this, so and then I remember trying to figure out what just came out of my body. Like I was calling people, and what was amazing to me is how little anybody could even tell me what they thought that was.
Yeah.
But it was clear as day to me, not normal. And then my son also did so because of this, we were like, maybe the whole family has parasites. And he did one of the cleanses, and I remember him coming to me and saying, he had when he went to the bathroom. Yeah, it was hanging out of his butt. I told you it's gonna get gross, guys, but it was hanging out of his butt. What is that?
So unfortunately, I wasn't there, so I can't formally say this, but 90-something% of the time, it's just mucus.
Okay.
So mucus comes out in a strand, and it's thick, and it's not translucent. You think about a giant loogie that comes out either your lungs or your nose. If in a stool, it will come out as a linear-looking worm. And so I did a YouTube video on this a while back because drinking turpentine got really popular, and I did a video telling people to stop drinking turpentine to treat their parasites. So yeah, you would drink turpentine, and you'd poop out these stringy looking parasites, but really it's just intestinal mucus.
Right.
Because if I put turpentine in your nose, snot would come out. It doesn't mean you have parasites in your nose. It means you have turpentine in your nose. So I'm not going to say parasites are not real because they are real, but they're extremely rare. If a true multicellular parasite did not get picked up on your GI map, then it was not a parasite. Because these organisms, especially when they're that healthy that you can see them with your eyeballs, they're releasing ova and parasites every day, all day long. To truly say you don't have a parasite, you actually have to do 3 stool samples 3 days in a row in order to catch 85% of the parasites. So I can't say for sure that it wasn't a parasite, but 90% of the time, you'd have to capture it, which is even more disgusting than talking about it, put it in a cup and bring it to the lab. The second part is if it is a living parasite that just got ejected from your body, it would still be moving.
Yeah. Interesting. And so I have all sorts of questions about this. Is there a case to be made for consuming a supplement or a particular diet or doing something throughout the course of a year, like some sort of fast, that might address parasites as almost like hey, I don't know if I've got one. I don't know if I've got the time or energy or resources to do 3 stool tests in a row, 3 days, right? Like, so,
I don't even do
but
it.
If you told me once a year I would do 30 days of, grapeseed extract or something,
It's one of them.
that I could potentially keep this at bay, and hell, if I didn't have them, who cares,
Be fine.
right? I just drank some grapeseed extract. But is there something like that you would advise?
2 things. So we do a lot of this in our practice. That's what we do. We test, we treat.
Yep.
And so we've got really aggressive protocols, but we've also got sick people. We've got well people too. But the number one thing, and I do this myself all the time, especially after Christmas and all the treats, I always expect myself to do better than I did, and I always regret it. So in January, February, I usually do a gut cleanse at least every year. And so biocidin is the number one product we use. That is our cornerstone. It's easy to find. Cellcore actually just bought the company, which
really?
Congrats to them. They were this tiny little hole-in-the-wall company that has just exploded over the last 10 years. So Cellcore bought them. But the product's called biocidin. You take 30 drops of that. Don't start at 30. We start at 2, and then you work up to 4 and 6. And that sounds like a sissy thing to do, but that thing will put you on your knees. And if you don't know what diet die-off is, then you need to look that up. But what we love about biocidin, it's literally the cornerstone to all of our gut treatments, among other things, but that is the cornerstone. And the reason why is because you mentioned grapeseed extract. Well, grapeseed extract treats these X things, but what about those Y things and those Z things? So what biocidin did fabulously is they blended so many of those things all into one product. So you don't know if you have a parasite, you don't know if you have SIFO, you don't know if you have SIBO, you don't know what you have. Biocidin is ubiquitously kind of good for it all. And the reason why it's really good for all is because we're the miracle of a God-made human being. Your immune system can kill anything. It just usually needs a little bit of help. Like when you get antibiotics for a sinus infection or whatever, the antibiotics don't finish the job. The antibiotics just turn the tides of war so you feel better faster, but your immune system finishes the job. Your immune system at a molecular level makes bleach, can make bleach. It makes bleach. I said that 3 times so people really hear it. What can't bleach kill? It can kill a parasite, it can kill a bacteria, it can kill a fungus, it can kill anything if your immune system is working. So 1, you got to eat a good diet in order to give the immune system nutrients. 2, you got to decrease the inflammation so that the immune system can do what it needs to do. 3, you put some biocidin or other supplements down the hatch. It just turns the tide of war so then the immune system can kind of win the battle.
And when you were saying, so biocidin, which you can buy.
Yeah, it's over
right?
the counter. Supplement.
Cellcore you can't. I think you have to be maybe.
Yeah, they're kind of weird, and hopefully they don't do that to biocidin because right now you can get biocidin from Full Script. And stuff.
So biocidin, did you say up to 30 drops?
Yeah, so you start with 2 drops and you increase by 2 drops per day as long as you feel okay. If you're not, then you slow down or skip days. And everyone gets to 30 drops. Some people get there in 5 days. Some people get there in a year. My 85-year-old lady took a year to get to 30 drops. But once you get to 30 drops, then you stay on it for 30 days is our usual regimen, and then you come off it. You can do longer term. You could take it forever if you wanted to. Then it gets a little like, well, why do I need this forever? I shouldn't need it forever. You fix the problem, then you stop it. The other one that most people don't know about is called SAC-B for short. The long name is called Saccharomyces boulardii. It's a yeast, believe it or not, that's a beneficial yeast for humans. It cannot grow inside us. It cannot stay inside us. It can live as it passes through us. But conventional medicine has researched it many, many, many times. It kills off bad bacteria, kills off fungus, and kills off the bad guys, and then just disappears. We don't know why. So we do what rounds we call high-dose SAC-B, where you take 12 capsules a day of SAC-B in order to eradicate the yeast, fungus, bacteria, and that's something anybody can do. Everybody makes Saccharomyces boulardii. Easy to find. Just find a pure SAC-B pill that's 100% Saccharomyces boulardii. Do not start at 12. You start at 1 pill twice a day, then go up to 2 pills, then 3, and then you get all the way to 6 twice a day. And then we usually encourage people to migrate all 12 pills to the morning. So they do 8 and 4, then 10 and 2, then 12 and 0. And if you can get there and not have any side effects, you're done. But if you have side effects along the way, it means it was doing something. What something? You don't know, but who cares? It's gone.
Right. Yeah,
So
fascinating.
those 2 treatments, anybody and everyone can do. Realistic, works for mold, works for parasites, works for fungus, bacteria. We use it all the time. But the microbiome is extremely complex. So for people like you and me, they can take that and be fine and do their little treatment without a doctor. But people with lupus and difficult autoimmune processes, ulcerative colitis, all of that's reversible. But a lot of times they have so much trouble with the protocols and their microbiome is so broken that they really need us to help them get more specific on their treatments and stuff.
What about other things that are kind of staples that you think are maybe not harmful to do every 30 days, like every quarter or once a year or even every day? Things like L-glutamine or...
that's old school. Nobody does that anymore.
No. There you go. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would say?
Yes, is the short answer.
For gut health.
Yeah. So our favorite product, bar none, if anyone can do anything, it's called Ultra GI Replenish. It's a product by Metagenics. It's a protein powder, but there's actually gut supplements inside it. One of our patients many years ago, 2017 or so, called it magical food powder. This guy, crazy story. He's still my patient. I can't believe it. He came to me and he was telling his medical story as I'm intimately listening. He's like, yeah, I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. He's like, I'm sleeping about 2 to 4 hours. I'm like, yeah, per week. I'm like, excuse me, I think you misspoke. I think you meant to say per day. And he's like, no, I'm about 2 to 4 hours a week. And like, I don't know how that's humanly possible.
Yeah.
If I don't get 7 hours a night. I can't function. How is this humanly possible? And so the short version of the story is that product was relatively new at the time. We gave it to him, and he came back a week later and was like, what is that stuff? It's magical food powder. And he literally, from the first days he started sleeping 4 hours a night, which is still not enough. And now he sleeps 8 hours a night. But
say it again. What's the?
It's called Ultra GI Replenish.
Yeah.
And it's a protein powder. It's 2 scoops a day, but it's got glutamine in it. But they actually made a dipeptide out of the glutamine, not to get too sciencey. So it's like the modern version of glutamine that works infinitely better than glutamine. So that surpassed everything. But they also put fancy fibers in it, as I like to call it. There's fibers that only feed the beneficial microbes. And if you only feed the good guys, then the good guys kill off the bad guys. So single-handedly, those 2 products, Ultra GI Replenish and Biocidin, can basically fix 80% of the people out there without ever seeing me.
Wow. That's incredible. Okay.
And
so
they're over the counter.
parasites.
Crazy.
Parasite. Is there anything else we want to say about that? About
Well,
parasites?
I could talk forever, but I think we got the basics.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping to do is get
Yeah.
some basics here. Going back to let's talk about mold. Let's just go to the mold for a minute. Where I am on this mold journey, and I'm just going to use myself as a case study for a minute because we did the ERMI test, found out that we do have mold in the house, and then we had a remediation. A company that comes out that kind of does the flashlight look around. Hey,
Inspector.
That might be worth looking at. You might need to get that fixed. And then they made some suggestions. Hey, you might want some UV lights in your HVAC system. You might want to seal your basement so that and put some fans down there. You might want, they started giving some suggestions. Ultimately, these suggestions were like $50,000 worth of suggestions. And then there's another, and so I'm just saying this also to my fellow brothers out there that when you start looking at this, be careful.
Yeah.
Because
scam artists.
people are just like, there's a lot of money to be spent. I think a lot of money to be wasted. And also, I don't know exactly what is a good investment or not.
I do.
To save my health, by the way, I would spend anything.
Everything. Yep.
So, I know that I want what I also want is I want to start with the low-hanging fruit. And logically for me, it was like if I can remove humidity from the air,
Yes.
buy a couple dehumidifiers, and start there.
$300 on Amazon.
Logically, that makes sense.
Yeah, so
I can implement it in 72 hours.
Yes.
Talk to me about the stuff where I might just blow my cash and waste money, where I can, the dehumidifier route. Do you have any
we
suggestions?
could talk so long.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. So amen to what you just said. So earlier I said water hatches mold spores. Humidity keeps it alive. That humidity number is 55%.
Yep.
If your humidity is below 55%, you stun mold. You don't kill it. You don't stop it. But you're safer in it. So dehumidifiers, we run one 100% of the time in our master bathroom because that's where most of the showers happen. We shower twice a day. The kids don't. So turn on the vent, sure, air out the humidity. But basically, we run our dehumidifiers, become kind of our white noise app. And so we run it 100% of the time. I empty the tank every day, and it keeps the humidity below 55%. The air condition unit will dehumidify, especially the modern ones nowadays, but rarely, especially in hot, humid climates like Austin. I hate to say Austin's humid because I'm from South Louisiana. That's humid. But it's not dry here.
But the point is if it's above 55%.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And every
you can buy a very easy, a humidity reader on Amazon for a couple bucks.
Yep.
And
your air condition does it.
Yeah.
There's like $10 sensors that you can get, probably $5 sensors. But the dehumidifier will also have a sensor on it. So just run it all day long.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing is all those other fancy bells and whistles, you cannot clean air very well. So yeah, if you want to do UV light on your air condition, I've got them. If you want to run air filters, great, you can. That's not where the money is. Don't get me wrong. Those are expensive and those add up. That's not the cure. The cure is cutting it out. I tell people you got to cut cancer out like a cancer.
Yeah.
What did I say? Cut mold out like a cancer.
Yeah.
If you left like a cell of cancer, would you be safe? No. So if you see a moldy spot and it's suspicious to you, cut an extra 6 inches around it. And you don't need a fancy mold remediation crew to do it, although I would encourage you to do it. You can get a simple, so the 2 things you're going to do if you're going to remediate yourself is 1, don't trust anything, cut it out. If you're not sure, put a hole in it and look. Mold will not hardly ever grow on the outside. Paint doesn't like to grow mold, and that's what our walls are. They're paint. The drywall is just white bread for mold. It loves drywall because it's already powderized. It's already digested. It's like protein powder. Why do we drink protein powder? Because it's already digested. It's just quick, hit the system. You chew up a steak, that's going to take a while to get into the system. So drywall is like protein powder for mold. They love it. It's white bread. So anything that's ever gotten wet needs to be cut out. Doesn't matter if you see the mold or not. It just needs to be cut out. And there's a little temperature or moisture sensor with 2 little prongs on it you can get from Amazon. You got to stick it in all the drywall, all the wood, all around it. And there's specific normals. I don't remember them all, but they're easy to Google of what the normal moisture level is in drywall and 2x4s and stuff. You don't have to cut out solid wood pieces because mold can't grow through a solid wood. So a solid 2x4, it can't grow through because the tree is protective. That's why mold grows on the outside of a tree, not on the inside of the tree. If mold grows on the inside of the tree, it's called dead, right?
Yep.
So a 2x4 is not dead, is not rotten. If it is, that does need to be cut out. But usually if you catch water damage, you can clean the 2x4, but you never really clean anything in mold except for solid wood pieces. But you take that 2x4, you blend it up, and now you call it particle board. That's not the same thing. That has to be cut out because anything that's 3D that the mold can penetrate is like a sponge. It just soaks it up and it rots it. That's mold's responsibility in this world. Mold rots things. Trees and plants grow and they release food and vegetables and stuff for us to eat. They release oxygen for us to breathe. But when they die, mold brings it into the soil in order to break it down for a new plant to grow on the mold-destroyed thing. When we die, mold decomposes us. Mold is the decomposer of the world. So it's decomposing your house and making you sick because its byproduct is called mold toxins. And the mold toxins have no smell. Not mold spores. Most people have no idea. I've never heard the word mold toxins. Mold spores don't make you sick. Mold spores make you sneeze, make your nose run, make you asthma, whatever. Mold toxins make you sick. And by sick, quote unquote, I mean literally anything. The most common mold symptoms we see, you're not going to believe this, most common mold symptoms, insomnia, anxiety, brain fog, fatigue. Those are the most common mold symptoms we see. I'll add rash in the list, but it's kind of a fifth.
Hey guys, I want to share something brand new designed for high-performing men like you who want to win at home, not just at work. Our team developed this program over the past 8 years by collecting the best ideas, strategies, and habits from hundreds of men. It's all in one place to give you the best results in the shortest amount of time because if you're a married man with kids and a business, there is no time to waste. This experience creates deep transformation, not just taking notes and talking about change. It's about doing what matters now so you don't miss the moments when your kids need you the most. These opportunities will come and go very quickly. It's also about building a marriage that shows your kids what real love looks like, creating an environment where they and you thrive. Look, marriage is tough. I've personally walked the line of divorce several times, and without the tools I've gained from this community, I might not be married today. And it's not just about being a great dad or a husband. It's about fulfilling your personal mission, thriving as a man, making an impact through your work, gaining time freedom, financial freedom, traveling the world, and giving to the causes you care about. This program is designed to keep you mentally, physically, and spiritually strong. You do not need to do this alone. Our badass community of intentional fathers are going to help you raise the bar. You're going to learn from each other, hold each other accountable, find your blind spots, and achieve success most dads will never see. It's time to dig deep, gain clarity, and create real change starting now. If you're ready to evolve, visit frontrowdads.com today. We've got limited spots available for this brand new program.
So who doesn't have a little fatigue, a little brain fog, a little this, a little that, and have no idea they're living in mold? Because it's not all black mold that will kill you.
Yep.
The other simple advice that I give people is, yes, you can hire the mold inspector and stuff, but like you mentioned, get a flashlight. Look at every water source that's in your home. Pull your washer out. Look at the tubing. Look for water damage. Look for signs of paint bubbling, floors bubbling, drywall swelling. That means mold. If it's anywhere swollen, look at skylights. Look at the single greatest place people usually miss is the shower. The shower, the water runs down the side, drips onto the floor, the molding, the floorboard, and then you've got mold all over and you don't even know it, or cracks in the shower, or caulking just broken, not even there. Mold is so pervasive. If anybody listening does anything for their family, On the medical side, it's simply to do a mold inspection on your home, do an ERMI. If it's positive, you got to find it. It's there. You just got to find it.
Yeah. It's such a pain in the ass,
It's
man.
terrible. It is terrible. And I mean, I'm a mold doctor, and I've got 3 different exposures in my house, and I'm a crazy person about it, and it's still caught 3 water leaks. And I've been in the house since 2013. So one of my questions I ask all patients that come into the door is, how long have you been in your home? When was it built? And what water leaks have happened? I don't ask, is there mold in the home? I ask what water leaks have happened, because men, especially men, never want to admit there's mold. They never believe it's mold, but they'll tell me what water leaks have happened. Then I can introduce them to mold. It's stealing people's health, stealing years away from their life, and they have no idea because no one's really talking about this. Name one time you've seen it on CNN or Fox or any medical news at all that anyone has mentioned mold, other than the obvious homes that have to be bulldozed down because they're so bad. Mold is a gray zone. Majority of my patients are in the gray zone, not in the black. Mold will kill you.
Talk to me about, and I know that there's still so much we could talk about as it
tons.
relates to like the house and all the things that we can do. But talk to me about if somebody's listening and they're like, yeah, I get that. I even know we had a leak. I'll bet you there's mold there. I'm going to call the company. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to order the dehumidifiers. And my logical brain wants to say, I should start detoxifying my body immediately anyway, no matter what.
Everyone should. We live in a chemical soup.
So talk to me about that. What are the basic elements of detoxification of mold out of the body?
So that's a great question. So the first answer I want to say is lipid exchange. And I learned something a long time ago as I started to get into functional medicine. When you Google restless legs, insomnia, anxiety, whatever, you're going to get all the Mayo, WebMD, all the conventional medical answers. If we give people the right terms to Google, you get below the fray, and then you start to discover all of this functional medicine stuff. So you've said a few buzzwords already that people listening, if they're curious about it, if they go and type that in, they're going to get below that fray and start to see that there's a whole nother world that their doctor didn't even tell them about, and their doctor needs to learn about, they need to learn about. So chelation, that's an easy word to look up. Mold toxicity, easy one to look up. You'll find tons of functional medicine articles. I speak ad nauseum on YouTube, so you'll find tons of my videos on there. Detoxification is a common one, but the detox word is so marketed, so over. If you type in detox, people are just trying to sell you stuff, and myself included. I mean, I'm trying to sell stuff too. That's what I do. I have a business, but so much of it is just total crap. So the human word for detoxification is called lipid exchange. The reason we don't like to use detox is because it is over marketed, but detoxification includes chelation and lipid exchange. And those are 2 totally separate processes. So the way we explain that is chelation is the verb we use for removing heavy metals. That's all that means. That word is only removal of heavy metals. It does not move Roundup from your body. It doesn't remove gasolines and plastics and microplastics. It doesn't touch it. It's just heavy metals. Like you said, it just binds a heavy metal, pulls it out of your body, and that's the end. So that is a detox process. That has nothing to do with the lipid exchange process. So the lipid exchange process is everything else. Everything else that your human body wants to get rid of, doesn't matter what it is, goes through the lipid exchange process.
What is a lipid, by the way?
I was about to get there, yeah. So a lipid means oil. That's all that means, a fat. Okay. Exchange is trading. So we call this oil laundering. It usually gets people's attention. So the toxins we struggle to get rid of as human beings are oils. They're fats. Why? Well, you drink alcohol and you get a buzz, you get drunk, but you don't stay drunk for years. But Roundup can stay inside you for years. Mold toxins can stay inside you for decades. So what's the difference? The difference is that we have a lot of fat on our body. And I don't just mean the belly fat that we have. Your cells have a fatty membrane around it. Your brain is 60% fat by weight. Your liver has fat for energy. You've got fat all over your body. So these fatty toxins, like sticks to like, or as my college organic teacher said, crap, he was very African, crap sticks to crap. Like, okay. I can't do the African accent, any accent. And so these oils, these toxic oils, stick to our toxic oils. Yeah. And so then we struggle to get rid of them. And by toxic oils, I mean gasoline, Gasoline, if you put it in water, it floats. It's an oil. It does not mix. Oil and vinegar, the vinegar is water. You can add water and the vinegar layer will get bigger, but the oil layer will not. So these oil toxins, whatever it may be, plastic, obviously is not water soluble. Otherwise, your water would dissolve the bottle, right? So most of our toxins that we struggle to get rid of, all the toxins we struggle to get rid of, are fat soluble. So how do we get a fatty toxin that's stuck to us out of our body? We got to trade it. We got to put a good fat in, and we got to take the bad fat out. So this lipid exchange process is a process your human body already does, and we hijack that in functional medicine. We speed that process up. And the number one process that everyone focuses on is liver. Like, oh, liver this, liver that, liver. The liver is just one organ of your body, and yes, it is the detox organ. Your microbiome does tenfold more detoxification than your liver does every day. So back to the microbiome word. If you have a superhero in your bowels, it will do much more detoxification than any supplement you take. That's why we always do the gut first. You fix the gut, and humans' detox pathways just light up and they come back online. So that's why the number one is you fix the gut, and the gut starts fixing the other toxic burden for you. So you always got to fix the gut. But number two is you can support that lipid exchange process. And one of my pet peeves is everyone always focuses on liver, cell core included. They just liver, 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 liver. The liver cannot detoxify anything that it doesn't have access to. The liver doesn't like creep up to your brain at night while you're sleeping like, hey, buddy, let me get all the toxins out of you. No, it's stuck in one part of your body. How does a brain detoxify? So I just told you the brain is 60% fat by weight. So it has a lot of toxins in it because it's fatty. So it's got a lot of fatty toxins in it. So how does the brain detoxify? It's not a detox organ. So how does it detoxify? And the short version of the answer is it doesn't. It has to get the liver its toxins. How does it do that? Lipid exchange, oil laundering. You got to eat, you eat fat, right? You eat butter, you eat healthy butter and meats and vegetables and olive oil and all of that. And those healthy fats go in, and the liver says, okay, I'm going to build a new membrane with this new olive oil, this healthy oil that doesn't have a toxin stuck to it. I'm going to mobilize this toxic oil, and that toxic oil is going to circulate my bloodstream, and it's got to find the liver. It's got to find, not all blood goes to the liver. It's not like Nemo. Not all water goes to the ocean. Not all blood goes to the liver. So it's got to circulate the body, and the liver has to be healthy enough. It has to have the nutrients needed, and then it can detoxify it. But the liver doesn't actually get rid of it. Where does it go after the liver? It doesn't like teleport out of the body. You don't like go to the bathroom and empty your liver juice, right? You pee, you poop, you sweat. Those are your detox pathways. Those are the final product. I do a lot of crying, so I had crying in there. But if you want to do a lot of drooling, whatever, bleeding, I don't know. But your three normal detox pathways end in stool, urine, and sweat. So you got to be pooping every day, but you got to have the microbiome to break stuff down and create the trash. Number two is if you live in Texas, you got the sweating part down, and then you got to be drinking enough water to make the urine. So the liver's got to be healthy enough, but the brain has to be healthy enough to mobilize the toxins. So we focus a lot on mobilizing toxins, which is not cute or sexy, because the liver is really good at what it does. When it's got the nutrients, you really don't need that many nutrients to support the liver because it's pretty good at what it does, but it can't do something it doesn't have access to. So we spend a lot of time on mobilizing toxins, and our favorite way to mobilize toxins is patients' least favorite way to mobilize toxins. If you had to guess, what would you think the most powerful way to mobilize a toxin out of your brain would be?
The most powerful way?
Think of anything.
Sleep?
That's a good one. No.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's the freest thing we do. And I'm amazed at how many people market and sell stuff that are free. That's amazing. It's actually fasting.
Oh, yeah.
So see, it makes it so.
It's funny, my brain was doing the exact same thing. Like if I stop eating and I let the fat process and then I refeed with healthy fats, that's it.
You oil laundered. So the idea behind fasting is actually twofold. Number one is when you don't eat any fats, the organs have to use their own fats for fuel.
Sure.
So if you're burning fats, you're now mobilizing the toxins out of these fats, and now the liver has access to them because you're just burning the fat for fuel. Number two is when the body is fasting and in the ketogenic state. The ketogenic state is like a fasted state while eating. So it's kind of cheating. Ketogenic is like fasting, but fasting is way more powerful. So when the body's in the ketogenic state and or the fasting state, the liver makes a component called ketones. Ketogenic diet. Genic meaning creation, keto meaning ketones. And these ketones are like they're like sugar fats. They're like easy fats for the body to digest and fuel, and that's nice and all, and that's what keeps you alive when you're fasting. But they actually have a superpower. So the two ketones are, one's called acetoacetic acid, and that one feeds the body. That's great and all. But the second one is called beta hydroxybutyrate, and you can find these beta hydroxybutyrates in ketone drinks and all kinds of stuff. Not a big believer in those, but when your liver makes beta hydroxybutyrate, something magical happens. We used to be able to give this in the IV form. It's called sodium phenylbutyrate, and we can't find it anymore. It's been on complete back order for like 4 years now. It makes men feel euphoric. Like, I was the first one to do it, and I was like, I'm like high right now. I'm totally with it. I'm totally normal, but the world is brighter. Everything is clearer. I feel really good. I feel euphoric. You give it to women, they get sad and depressed.
Really?
It's totally backwards.
That's
it's
weird.
Unfair. We've had so many women cry in our infusion
weird.
room. We don't get it anymore. And men are just like, oh my God, I love this. So not always, but that was the typical pattern. But anyway, I digress. The reason that the liver makes beta hydroxybutyrate is it is a fuel, but it has this magical ability that we don't fully understand, that it goes into our cellular membranes like scissors and starts ripping up the cell membranes and start chewing them up. And part of the problem is that these toxins get stuck to the fat. And so these scissors just go in there clipping it and releasing the fats, and with it, the toxin. We call them adjuncts, adjunct being stuck to. So this adjunct is stuck to the cell membrane. You mobilize it. Now the liver can handle it and break it apart. There's a longer explanation there, but your body only makes butyrate in a ketogenic state or a fasted state. It otherwise makes zero, none, kaput.
Interesting.
You can consume as much butyrate as you want, but you'll never get the benefit as if your liver makes it. We sell a product called MCT butyrate and sun butyrate, and that's great and all, but the gut also loves butyrate, so the gut selfishly steals it all, and none gets system-wide. You can only get it system-wide through IV, which doesn't exist anymore, and B, when your liver makes it.
How long of not eating before you're considered in a fasted state when this starts?
Everyone's a little different. Nowadays, we like the Keto Mojo meter because you can check your ketones and you can see. And as long as it's not zero, people think, oh, I got to get to 1.5 or something. As long as it's not zero, you're making ketones. Yeah, if you're at 2 and 3, you're making a lot more ketones, which means a lot more benefit. So everyone's a little different, unfortunately, is the answer. It sounds backwards, but the people that are the unhealthiest usually spike the fastest because their body's like, oh, crap, they stopped eating for the first time in a long time. And so they start generating tons of ketones. But like the endurance athlete, they can really struggle to get in ketones because their body's so good at
Are we talking
burning
hours
the
or
ketones.
days?
So no, everyone's hours. It's at least minimum 12 hours to generate any ketones.
Yeah.
But really, in a fasted state, to get ketones that matter, you're really looking at a 3-day fast. So we push all of our patients to get to a 5-day fast, which
Water
sounds...
only.
Yeah, and electrolytes. Water and
Yeah,
electrolytes.
yeah.
I made that mistake. Don't miss the electrolytes. That was
3 to
stupid.
5 days is what you suggest there.
Yeah, so there's another word that people need to Google and learn about. It's called autophagy. That's a fun word to say,
Yeah.
autophagy. So it's autophagy, A-U-T-O-P-H-A-G-Y, and it just means auto meaning self, phagy meaning eating. So when you stop eating, your body eats itself as fuel. And so we've all become a victim of this when finances are going well. We got a Netflix and a Paramount and this and then. And then when the cash crunch hits, you're like, you know what? We don't need anything. We're just going to do Netflix or we'll get the rabbit ears out, right? Start watching TV. So when the budget gets constrained, you start dumping things that are unnecessary. Your body's no different. On a 3-day fast, so we typically say on a 5-day fast, it takes 3 days for the autophagy process to start. This is one of the key theories behind why we have so much cancer, in addition to inflammation and toxins and all that jazz, is we're keeping all these bum cells that are just freeloading on the system, and they're creating problems and they're creating cancer because they're just sitting on the payroll doing nothing. So if we do fasts, which used to be a regular part of people's lives, not because they wanted to, because of famines, and we didn't have HEB on every corner. And so fasting used to be a regular part, a regular spiritual practice also. And so in this 5-day fast, it takes 3 days to get the autophagy process started. So if you do a 5-day fast, you actually get 3 days of autophagy. If you do 3-day fasts, you only get 3 days of autophagy. So that's kind of the idea where we're like, look, we want to push everyone to a 5-day fast because you really get 3 days of autophagy instead of doing 3-day fasts. That's 9 days of fasting instead of 5 days of fasting. And fasting, there's a good book by Jason Fung called The Obesity Code, which is terribly titled. It's literally a book about fasting. So anyone interested in fasting, great way to read and learn about fasting and getting into it, because fasting can fix so many things.
Yeah.
It's not fun, and it's free. It doesn't cost anything. I can get people to buy supplements. They really don't want to fast, though.
Yeah, it's challenging. I've done several long water-only fasts.
What's the longest?
I did 6.5 days.
That hurts.
Yeah,
Especially with no electrolytes. That
That
hurts.
was the last. I remember on the last day, I was playing volleyball with all the front row dads, and I hadn't eaten in 6 days. I look good. My abs
I
were.
bet.
You can see my abs, but
I bet.
yeah, I definitely dropped some weight.
Yeah.
It wasn't the primary reason. I was actually, I'd heard similar things to what you just said, and I heard the same idea about a 72-hour mark where something magical happened.
That's
I
it.
don't remember who said it, but
You want to reverse diabetes, just do some
yeah.
fasting. I just read an article today. That diabetes, I cannot believe we spend as many millions, billions, whatever on diabetes today. It's so easy to reverse. It is so easy to reverse. You don't really even have to change the way you eat too much. If you just do some 3-day fast every week or every other week, 3-day fast, I would typically say every 3 weeks, introduce intermittent fasting, diabetes is reversible, easily reversible. Of course,
even if you don't change your
carbs
diet a ton.
Believe it or not, because most type 2 diabetics, when I say diabetes, most people are referring to type 2 diabetes. It's based on one thing, insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Insulin resistance is easy to explain. It's like loud music. If you like loud music, you like loud music, but it starts damaging your hearing. Well, 10 years later, you still like loud music, but now your hearing's a little damaged. You got to turn the music up a little louder, a little louder, a little louder, until what? The music literally makes you deaf. The thing you enjoyed damaged you and destroyed you. So carbs have literally released insulin, and then the insulin stops responding. Your body's not as sensitive to it. So it starts making more insulin to control the same thing. More insulin, more insulin. So how do you turn down the insulin resistance? If you don't eat,
stop eating.
your body makes zero insulin. And then it goes, wait a minute, I can hear insulin again. So then when you do eat, all of a sudden insulin works a lot better. Yeah. So that's what Jason Fung's book is literally about.
Sense.
Fasting reverses so many diseases.
Yeah.
High blood pressure, cholesterol.
I've played with all sorts of things in this space. Like I did 1 meal Monday before it was like an
22-hour
idea.
fast.
Yeah, I tried 1 meal Monday. I would do an 84-hour fast every quarter. 84 hours. Just from timing, by the way, like emotionally, kind of like not eating after Sunday and then eating Thursday morning, like that type of emotional part where I was banking on some sleep on either end of that to cover some of those hours was one of my strategies.
Going to sleep hungry is probably the hardest part of a more than 24-hour fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the weirdest part.
But
It's so unnatural feeling.
I was amazed. I at one point I either slept really great or terrible.
Yeah, there's no in between.
Yeah, there's no in between. But I definitely had a lot of energy and I had a lot of focus. And I understand from a primal perspective, it felt like, and again, I don't have the scientific background to back up these statements, but it felt like what I would imagine happens in a human body where your brain goes, hey, you haven't had food. Well, you better sharpen up. Because you got to learn how to hunt.
Exactly. That's literally the theory we explain.
Better make sure that arrow hits its target to survive.
So that is the idea. So the idea we go by is under-eating is not the same as fasting. So if you decrease your calorie consumption, your body slows down to match the budget. If you only eat 500 calories a day, your body will slow down to 500 calories a day and you will be miserable. But if you go to 0 calories a day, your body activates. And that's the theory behind it is that, okay, we ran out of food, so you either got to go find it or we're going to die anyway. So might as well do all systems on. It's like as if when your car gets close to empty on gas, it's like all the cylinders start firing. Like, wait, no, I still got to make it at the gas station. So it's literally that way. And the body starts sacrificing cells it doesn't need because it needs to survive. And so fasting is just one of the simple tools. It's free 99. Everyone can do it. It just takes a little hard work. And people are so surprised that they're really not that hungry. It's such a weird state.
It is a
You're
weird
hungry,
thing.
but you're not. You know you could eat, but you're not really hungry. It's a mind thing.
Well, the other part is if I have breakfast at 9, right? And let's say my normal routine is to have lunch at noon. By 11:30, let's say I'm hungry, right? I'm like hungry. I'm ready to eat.
Yep.
Over 84 hours of fasting, that hunger level never gets worse.
Nope.
It might come and go, but just hunger was hunger.
Yep.
It was always like a level 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Right? And then I would have some water, I'd move on, I'd get busy with something, and then it would
Forget
go
about it.
away.
Yeah.
It never lasted, and it never went to like level 50.
Nope.
It's not like each day the hunger got worse.
No.
It was just a mental game. And for me,
Totally weird.
the most important thing was to realize how I was eating. I wanted just to distract myself from work.
Yeah.
I wanted the excuse to sit down, have some food, watch a YouTube video.
It's amazing how
go
much
out with
free
a
time you
friend.
have when you don't have to make food, clean up after
So-
it. You don't have to chew it. You're like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with all my time right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
good.
hard to, so I haven't done fasting in a while, guilty admission. And when I did my 5-day fast, I had to prepare food for my kids because I was single at the time. And I've not fasted since Laura. She likes to eat, so we eat. But that was the hardest part, is making food for my kids and not being able to eat it. But if you're fasting, I always encourage that your partner's got to do it with you, because it's really hard to sit there while your partner's eating and you not eat. It's almost impossible.
Or Tatiana doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to fast. But what she's agreed to is that when I'm fasting, I don't have to be at the dinner table.
Good.
Or I don't have to cook, or I don't have to do those things. So she would let me go disappear on my own. And that's how she supported me through those.
And that, I think that's a conversation you have to have, because it is going to look weird. Wait, where's Dad? Why isn't he here? But if you're doing it for your health, you're doing it for the right reason. You're not at dinner because you're selfish and want to watch YouTube or read the news.
Yeah, very cool. All right, let's wrap with talking about the metals piece. Because again, that's actually one of the reasons, the primary reason that brought me to you, because nobody else I knew was doing it.
Which is sad.
And these two guys who I respect very much were like, this, doctor's legit. You got to go check him out. I did the test. I found out I have very high mercury, off the charts, and I had very high aluminum, and maybe a couple others, but those were the two most alarming. And then now the process begins, the chelation. I sit down, I get an IV. The chemicals, bind to the metal, you pee it out. You do maybe 10 rounds of these, maybe 20 rounds of these. Who knows how many you maybe need, maybe more. But
Everybody's different, yeah.
yeah, but talk to me. So that's the practical aspect of it, right? I'm not missing anything.
No,
like
that's
that
very straightforward. Very
basic
simple.
explanation. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Show up with your credit card,
Yeah,
get an
unfortunately.
IV, and you go for it.
Yeah.
My question to you is, can you speak a little bit to what those metals might be doing in the body to damage people, and maybe even answer any of this, or say whatever you want to say about this if you got something better. But it's like, and why is it not being talked about more?
So first question, how does it affect people? Metals are one of the easier ones to explain to people. It basically, the simplest way to understand is how it interferes with the mitochondria. And that's another word people need to look up just to learn. Mitochondria just means that the cell has to make its own energy. And the mitochondria is the thing inside of the cell that manufactures the energy. Just like the engine in your car, if you're a combustion engine, you go to the gas station, you get gas, but you actually have to make energy. That engine has to turn that gasoline into energy, or you go nowhere. You can have a full tank, go nowhere. So if your cell can't make energy, it will be dysfunctional. So if that cell's inside your heart, that might be called a heart attack. If your cell's in your brain, that might be called brain fog. It's in your muscle, that's called fatigue, all of those things. So each cell has to make its own energy. You eat cheeseburgers, but your cells don't make energy out of cheeseburgers. They make energy out of carbs, proteins, and fats. And that thing that does that is called the mitochondria. The body uses metals to create all its processes, many of its processes. Maybe I shouldn't say all, many of its processes. So the one everyone knows is hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is the protein inside of your blood that carries oxygen. Everybody knows that. Hemoglobin doesn't actually carry oxygen. Hemoglobin has one purpose in your body, the protein. Its only purpose is to hold on to iron. It's a cage for iron. Iron carries oxygen around our body, not hemoglobin. So you make a protein that simply captures iron and holds on to it, and that iron binds into oxygen and carries it all around your body. So you have a protein that traps a metal, a beneficial metal. It's called iron. Well, it turns out that lead looks a lot like iron to the body, and hemoglobin doesn't know any different. It's just trying to bind a metal. So here lead displaces iron. Do you think lead carries oxygen? No. And lead doesn't carry oxygen. So the best way I can explain metals is, if you look up any mineral, zinc, selenium, manganese, molybdenum, all of those minerals, you'll find that they have benefits all over the body. Oh, selenium is good for thyroid, and manganese, I don't even know what manganese is. Zinc is good for immune system, all of this stuff. And so what I tell people is, if you know all those things are beneficial with those beneficial minerals, then just assume metals are bad for all those things. So heavy metals interfere with selenium, interfere with manganese and molybdenum, and we just don't know all the things that it interferes with. But literally everything you study heavy metals for, it causes. One of the common ones that is I learned, and a lot of things we learn in these conferences are not real life. One of the ones that's weirdly correlative in real life is osteoporosis is almost always affiliated with lead overload.
Really?
Yeah. are women with osteoporosis. Yes, there's thin white females is the typical at risk that have thin bones, but lead causes osteoporosis. Why? Because calcium is a metal. Interesting. Lead displaces calcium. So when your little bone cells are making bones, they're just grabbing whatever metals nearby. They're looking for calcium, but lead displaces calcium, and now you have a lead matrix instead of a calcium matrix. And guess what? If you've ever bent lead, so lead means you have heavy bones, but they're breakable.
Interesting.
So heavy metals and cadmium interfere with bone building. They interfere with your mitochondria of your cells. So there's no direct like, oh, I have lead and I have this. Yeah. So I have seen a few things over time. We've seen some amazing things with heavy metal reversals. One of my favorite stories to tell is a very rare story that's not very common. So my lady, she'd be proud to be on the podcast to know that she's leading the pack as the most chelations ever, as far as I know, in anyone. She's done, I think we're up to like 154 chelation IVs. And luckily, they've got the pocketbook to cover it. But this woman, when I met her, she would take her kids to school and then go take a 3-hour nap and then pick up her kids and take a 3-hour nap. She just could not be awake. And lo and behold, she had tons of metals. And so after probably about 30 IVs, she was already feeling mostly better. And they did have mold in the house and they had other stuff going on. She was sick. And so she's amazing now. But yeah, so it's been a long process of pulling these metals out for her. Like you said, most people only need 10 infusions. Some I'd say less than 30% of people need 20, and then less than 10% of people need more than that. Every now and then we have those high ones. One of the common things I see is high mercury linked to brain fog. That's just a pretty clear-cut one that I've seen multiple times. But really, there's no like, oh, you have this symptom? Well, I can guarantee you're going to have this. Right. It just goes down to one of those simple things. The metals have to be tested. And you said this a second ago, but I did want to bring it back. You can do a blood test for metals, but that's what we call a non-provoked test. That's just a random test to see if metals are floating in your bloodstream. If it's positive, you have a problem. If it's negative, it doesn't mean you don't have a problem. The formal way to test any toxin, that includes mold, chemicals, metals, everything. The formal way to test any toxin is you have to push it out of the body. Because if you didn't need help pushing it out of the body, then it would already be out of the body. Right. We have to push it out of the body because we're collecting the urine, and the urine is not showing us what's inside the body. It showed what came out of the body. Totally. So when we do a metal test, we actually have to give you a push, and we call it a provoked challenge. We give you a chelation infusion, which pulls the metals out of the body, pushes the metals out of the body, and we collect the urine for 6 hours, see what comes out. If a lot comes out, guess what? A lot more is inside. If nothing comes out, then nothing's inside. No one's ever zero. We live in a toxic society nowadays, so no one's ever zero. But many patients don't need chelation. That's a common misconception that everyone does. Now, I think everyone, if they had the money, would be willing to do chelation and get it out. And the IV is definitely the most powerful. It is the more expensive. It's much faster, and it's the best tolerated, which is backwards. You would think IV would be the least tolerated. Right. You can do chelation pills, which are not very effective. They're not very well absorbed. Short version of the story is that the drug's called DMPS. It was actually invented by the U.S. Navy because their sailors were getting sick from painting the hulls of ships with lead paint. So their sailors were getting sick. Like, crap, we're going to fix our sailors. So they invented DMPS. And now the government frowns upon it. If the medical board were to catch wind that I was doing chelation, they would typically frown on me, slap me on the wrist or something, because it's just not very well accepted. But sadly, it makes a huge difference in patients because it's not big pharma. And it's I don't want to even go to the conspiracy theory like they're being paid by big pharma. That's just the establishment. The establishment thinks vaccines and big pharma are the answer, and functional medicine is crazy. I just saw an Apple News story headline saying that supplements are killing people. It's the leading cause of liver. It's so stupid how much flack I'm under. I love my little brother. He probably won't watch this, so I can say this. He wouldn't care if I did. But he's a medical doctor. He's an internal medicine doctor, and I'd like to believe he knows me enough to know that I'm not crazy. He doesn't know what to do with me. He knows I'm not crazy, but he doesn't really believe what I do. But he doesn't not believe what I do. But he doesn't understand how I've made a career out of this. And he's someone that's a first-degree relative. Like, I've lived with this man. He grew up. I've had multiple conversations with him. But he doesn't believe it enough, because if you believed it, you would do it. If you believe what we are doing is real, you're an idiot if you're not doing it. So you mentioned your CRP. Do you remember your number?
100.
What? Oh, I didn't remember that.
It's supposed to be between 1 and 3 or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
less
and
than 0.5 is our goal.
Mine is 100.
So when I was 32 and I did my labs the first time before I really knew anything about functional medicine, I was doing triathletes and I looked healthy. I never have abs, but I was at least triathlete and functional and healthy. Everyone would think so from the outside. And my CRP was 8, which is higher than most people when we do their labs, not quite 100. And I had no idea that I was the guy that was going to have a heart attack at 40 doing a triathlon, and I was going to be like, but he looks so healthy. And that story is so common. Everyone's heard that story of marathon runner drops dead of heart attack and like, but he's so healthy. No, if you actually do that guy's blood work, he had millions of signs, all the root causes, and no one looked. They were so worried about cholesterol and statins that they missed the boat. Cholesterol is not a problem. Cholesterol is not the problem at all. We do hardly nothing with cholesterol. Cholesterol is just a sign that the body's biochemistry is off. You fix the gut, you fix the mold. The cholesterol is almost always normal. I never treat anyone with statins. I'm crazy against them. It's a lot longer story. So what was the question?
This is great, man. This is my style of interview. I like it. As long as we're saying valuable things, it doesn't matter what the question is.
Amen.
That's the thing, right?
Well, I like to believe it's valuable.
Yeah. Well, I think it is, man. These are, again, going back, we're getting somewhat deep, but on these really broad stroke topics of like, check for metals, check for mold, right? Thoughts on parasites, six basic fundamental aspects of your health
that anyone can do.
I think that's the key, man, is to have some awareness. I just want to say to anybody listening, if they feel this way, because I feel this way, it's like some of it's overwhelming. Got a business, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got friends, I want to just Netflix and chill sometimes, and it can become exhausting. Calling companies, getting quotes on remediation, mold, cutting out drywall. Like sometimes it's just like, give me a break, man. It's just.
Can I
so
tell
much
one
shit.
story? Unfortunately, so one story to circle it back to mold and tell people how important this is, because it doesn't seem important until you have that life-changing event, and when that life-changing event happens, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
So Laura and I know this. We tried to work with him. He died. But he was a 46-year-old guy, good Christian man, juiced, drank smoothies, worked out, good-looking guy. Not that matters, but good-looking guy, great family, kids, everything. The picture of health, and gets this chronic back pain out of nowhere, or his hip pain, one or the other, and gets diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Stage 4 colon cancer. Short version story, dies in a couple years. So, when he's first diagnosed, Laura connects with the wife who's trying to get him help. And I tell her, I was like, he's doing all the right things. I am not God. I am not Jesus. But the only thing that makes sense is they're living in mold. That's the only thing. So they were really reluctant to come see us. I finally at least did a free Zoom call with them. And so I'm talking to the wife. She's sitting on the couch with her husband. Her husband was not interacting with me. He was fine at the time. He just didn't believe it. And so I'm talking to her, and I'm trying not to tell her the mold thing because I want to know the story, and I don't want to make a preconceived diagnosis. And so we're talking, I get the whole story, and then I say, there's people walking around in your background. Who is that? She says, they're plumbers, because we've been battling a leak in our master bathroom for 2 years. And I said, there's only one diagnosis for your husband. You guys are living in the black mold. There's no other answer. You're living in black mold, and that's why he has cancer. And sure enough, he never came to see me as a patient, but Laura's infectious. So she stayed really good friends with the wife through the process, and what an amazing woman to go through that whole process. But yeah, they found black mold, and that was his first symptom. He had no symptoms, and he was living in black mold, and it took him from his life. 2 young kids, maybe 3.
Yeah.
So what is more important? That business deal, like we just talked about showing up for the family, being at the soccer practice, right? Keeping my family safe is arguably more important than being at a soccer game. I'm fairly handy. I don't look it, but I grew up on a farm, and my wife is always shocked. She has a way of rolling compliments and insults. It's an amazing talent. So one day I was taking something out of the car, and she's like, "Wow, you're weirdly strong, and don't look at it." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And so anytime I'm doing a project, she's like, "You actually did that?" Like, yes, I actually did that. And I'm not nearly as good as my dad. My dad can take apart an engine, put it back together. I was missing parts. But anyway. What's more important, being at the soccer game or keeping your family healthy? If you need a YouTube video on how to get a drywall knife and cut stuff out, it's really easy to treat mold. You just cut stuff out. That's it. Who cares about putting it back together? The most important thing is getting it out of your house, not making it look pretty. So cut it out. Get it. I've got so many stories. And a quick one. How are we doing on time? Okay.
Good. We got about 10.
One more time, because this made a huge impact early in my career. I had this young girl that had been seeing me for years. She had like 5 kids because they were foster 2 kids, and she was sick. And she's one of those people that just ate perfectly, like ate better than me. And she struggled with this chronic fatigue. And I treated her for several years. She wasn't great with follow up because she was so busy, full working mom and 5 kids and all that. And lo and behold, finally a couple years had passed. And like, we got to test you for mold because something's not making sense. Like, you're doing too much right, and you're still symptomatic. You're fine for the most part, but this chronic fatigue is not normal for your health. And so sure enough, her mold test was positive in her urine. So we knew she was living in mold. Then I told her, you got to hire a mold inspector. And I didn't know enough about mold back then to do ERMI tests. So she hired a mold inspector. Mold inspector came, looked around the house, and he's like, you're fine. So I said, you got to hire a second one. So, and each one's like $1,800. This is not a small thing. So the second one comes to the house, analyzes everything, and he says, there's no mold here. And she pleads with the guy. She says, if this was your family, what would you do? And he says really simply, I would cut a hole in every water, every water outlet in your entire house until you found it. So they went to the master bathroom, cut open the cabinet, didn't find it. They went to a second bathroom, cut open the cabinet, didn't find it. They still stuck to it, and they cut open the third bathroom and found out that there was a water leak before they moved in, and the entire cabinetry was full of mold.
Jesus.
And when they opened it up, you could see it clear as day all underneath, but the top part was fine. Why? Because water sinks. All the mold was underneath.
Yeah.
And mold, the other part that people miss is it's a gas. It's a chemical that it releases. If you paint any room in your house, you're going to smell paint fumes everywhere. Why? Because paint is a chemical. It's a gas. It floats everywhere. The HVAC blows it around. So no matter where the mold is, it's in you. It doesn't matter if it's in the bedroom you never go in. We've had patients try to seal it off and stuff. You can't seal off chemicals and gases. It's not the spores that make you sick, it's the toxins, and it's a gas. I call it a fart to get people's attention. Mold's fart, and there's no smell to the fart, but the gas makes you sick, not the spores. So figure out how to cut it out. Go in every water source in your home, get a flashlight. You're not looking for mold, you're looking for any sign of water damage, and cut it out. It is not worth it. We have seen too many strange diagnoses, too many life-altering diagnoses. I've got stories, but I think those are 2 good ones.
It feels important.
Yeah.
We have a friend locally, JP Newman, that I don't know if you know him, but great guy. And he was talking to Tatiana about, like, you've got to take this seriously. Like, this is a really big thing. Because she just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's.
Oh, so an autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
Triggered by inflammation, triggered by one of the 6 root causes.
Yep.
So now you just got to find which root cause.
That's right.
And sometimes it's not a smoking gun. Sometimes it's a little of this, a little of that. Okay, so you got a little lead, you got a little mercury, you got a little mold, got a little gut issue, and that's what makes a witch's brew. It doesn't have to be a smoking gun.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For this
Thanks
great
for having
conversation, man. This is really
Sorry I cried so many times.
Powerful. I appreciate it. Thanks for, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for your work. Thanks for supporting me and my friends in the ways that you do.
You guys are easy to care for.
Thanks, man. Is there anything else that you want to say? I'll give you the final word. And before I hand you kind of the mic and ask if there's anything else, I just want to tell everybody, if you live in Austin, right, that we'll link to, your clinic and everything wherever they're watching on YouTube or in the podcast. So hopefully they can come say hi and check you out.
Yeah.
I know you've got some stuff on YouTube as well that you share.
Tons. I talk a lot.
So with that, I just wanted people to know kind of where you're at and how they can connect. any final words on anything, man? How do you want to wrap this up?
Oh, I could give so much, but one of the things I love about these types of podcasts is hopefully we do a lot of fancy stuff in my medical practice, and patients would have to see to find that stuff out. But there's so much low-hanging fruit that patients can treat themselves with. And don't give up. Do not trust your doctor. I hate to say that. It's my profession, but I don't trust my profession. So don't trust your doctor just because they say something is not the God's honest truth. They have not learned this stuff. If they have not gone to individual conferences to learn this, we were not taught it. I'm a fairly young doctor. I just came out of medical school in 2010, graduated residency in 2013. That's 12 years ago, and I didn't learn any of this. So the likelihood that anybody's teaching it right now, not happening. So unless they went and learned, they don't know it. So you got to figure it out yourself, or you got to find the functional medicine doctor. The other thing that I'm passionate about, and I'm trying to get started, if any doctors are listening, is I'm trying to start a consulting business to start teaching doctors how to do this, because I can only treat so many patients. But if I can teach a doctor to do what I do, give them the shortcut, give them the keys to the kingdom, the protocols, the diagrams, the everything, then they can go and heal more patients. So I've started up another website called my first and last, philipubemd.com. And that's going to be more my professional website. Oubemedical.com is more my patient website for people that want to learn from me, basically.
Cool. Wow. I love that. Yeah. Give a fish or teach how to fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I love patients, but unfortunately I can only see so many. And it's not enough impact for me.
Yeah.
I want to have a bigger impact.
Love that. Well, I just want to tell you, man, that I wish for you and your family great experiences, great moments. I hope that you all have a lot of laughter and love in 2025.
Likewise.
I hope you get out there and camp a little bit.
I need to.
And a little throwback to earlier pre-recording conversation
Glamping.
that we had outside of the studio here. But
Yeah.
man, thank you again for your heart and just being real with us today. And I know this is a complicated field, and you did a really bang up job trying to make things simple. I love the analogies that you had.
Good.
And I love that you're also an advocate for free. You know, I love that you're an advocate for what you can do without an expensive chelation drip. And if you have the means and you can pull it off, then the chelation part, these tests, remediating your home of mold, all the things, they can all be done. But my message to the men out there would be what I would tell my boys is the secret to success in life. And tell me if you agree with this, is always just doing the best you can with what you have.
Absolutely.
I mean, at the end of the
That's all you
day,
can do.
that feels to me like the rule above all rules is you always just do the best you can with what you have.
Exactly.
Whatever time, whatever resources, whatever information comes your way. And like you said, don't trust everybody don't trust me. Don't trust,
me either.
Don't trust any one
Look it up.
person, but trust yourself, do your homework, lean in, and do what you can with what you have.
I couldn't say that any better. Yeah. Amen.
All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
right,
you, John.
man. Thanks for listening today, fellas. If you got value from this episode, I ask that you take 1 second right now and you share this with another dad in your life that you respect, that you know is committed to becoming a better man, family man, and businessman. And on that note, I want to honor you for choosing growth. Your family will thank you years from now for all the effort that you're putting in to learn the strategies so you can show up more fully for them today. Take care.